Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pranago. We are doing a bit of something different. Now, what I actually want to do is try and track a certain amount of productivity over a long period of time and in specific targeted areas. Now, one of those areas is how cogent I can be, especially off the cuff, when trying to express my opinion, make some arguments, or otherwise just deliver some sort of spoken word piece to you guys. That could be in the middle of playing a game, in the middle of designing something during a mod stream, or in a piece like this that's more standalone, which is more like what my reviews tend to be. I hope that you've noticed a general improvement in those sorts of spoken word environments, but it's also something you really have to maintain, as anybody who's also attempted it can probably tell you. It's very, very easy to go back into slipping into saying and one of the things that I've definitely noticed myself regressing towards is sort of ranting off into some third avenue that has nothing to do with any of the connected topics and trying to bridge it back after I've noticed that I've diverged, instead of just saying, I should probably go back to the main topic and, cutting that short. I try to make it all make sense, and I try to make that diversion more apropos, more appropriate for the situation, and try to justify its existence, I suppose. So that's definitely something I want to work on more targetedly, right? But in general, I just want to be better at speaking. I want to be better at being well-spoken, being articulate, and articulating my ideas specifically, not just getting across some general points, but really delving into some important subjects. I think on a podcast, this is easier because you're literally not talking for like half the time. Mesk may even talk more than me in many particular episodes. And I think that's more dependent on the episode, but certainly there's a more even spread balance. And because of that, you don't have to worry about shouldering all of the weight yourself, which I am fine with, and I do recognize it's a hefty responsibility to have as a broadcaster, but it's one that I welcome. I think that it'll be fun to try and track my improvement down the years. So one of the things that I've been doing more recently as well, speaking of recent improvements, is I've actually been streaming daily. And I've been able to, despite the fact that I had to move and all this other stuff, actually go through and stream daily for over a month straight now. So that's over 30 days. I don't actually have the exact statistic. But I actually don't even know if it's important to have the exact statistic. Once the streak breaks, I may end up going back and changing some stuff around in my analytics, trying to figure out exactly what the streak was, what that number was before it broke. But I'm operating under the assumption that it's just going to be good no matter what. Because really what I'm after is maintaining the streak. That's what matters to me. So what I actually want out of the whole stream a day thing is to be able to say, for maybe a whole year, for maybe more, why would I ever stop? Just keep going. I've been able to stream daily for who cares how long. The point is that I'm able to chain all these things together, and the point is to avoid breaking that streak, and the point is to be consistent and be reliable in that sense. Now, obviously, it's reliable pretty much only to myself. Of course, now and then I'll work on something like iCourse custom desert terrain, or any sort of thing that would benefit other people. And I'm sure a lot of the stuff that I end up working on for my projects, especially the custom terrain side of things, can be used by other people as well. And obviously some people like to watch, so that's cool. I really appreciate people hanging out in that sense, but it seems like they're getting something out of it as well. So it is a service or content that people enjoy, right? But for the most part, it's for me, it's a scheduling thing where I'm trying to be as productive as possible, and I'm trying to be as dedicated as I can be. And I think a huge part of that has been mastering time. Though I'm very far from a master of it, the idea that I at least have more control over my time and I'm better at time management is super important. Now, obviously, time is this man-made thing or whatever, but a literal social construct, unlike gender. So the big issue with saying that you're managing or mastering time is, of course, it will eventually destroy you. But that aside, I think it's important to actually have some sort of scheduling. I think it's important to have that sort of, I suppose, a kind of routine, or even a ritual, if you wanted to call it that. Like I often describe my morning ritual as just that, where I'm waking up and brushing my teeth and maybe having some breakfast if I feel hungry at that particular point, and otherwise, skipping it for some caffeine and get started on my stream at some point, right? That's usually my routine. Sometimes I shower in the morning, sometimes I do some other audibles, but the point is it's mostly just me getting ready for the work that day. That's my morning routine. So Yeah, I want to incorporate all sorts of other stuff to that particular routine, like maybe some morning exercise or a jog or something when the streets are a little bit less snowy. But the bottom line is you get some sort of habit built, and that is a very positive habit, being able to say every morning I'm able to get up and get ready to work, and then to say every morning I do the work, and every day I do the work. Showing up is half the battle for a lot of this stuff, and just being able to say, yeah, I showed up to start working, that will completely cut out most of your motivation to not do the work, if you know what I mean. A huge part of the whole idea of procrastination is you don't want to get up to get ready to do the work. You think that the whole process is too much. So for some people, and for myself included, I think, making it an automatic divorcial where you're not really paying attention to getting ready for work and you're not conceptualizing it as this is so that I can do work or this is part of doing the work, even though it is, I would argue anyway, that getting ready and having a balanced life and being able to be of sound mind and have a good night's sleep previously and all that stuff, I think that is all related to doing a good job when you're actually doing your work. But being able to separate it in a conceptual standpoint and sort of compartmentalize it, such as right now I need sleep because sleep is important, and then I need to brush my teeth because obviously my dental care is important, and I need to shower because hygiene is important, and all this other stuff, right? I need to do X because Y, or whatever the reasoning is. Having that be separate and justify itself it's more likely for me to actually say, oh, because that's important on its own, I will do it. And I think that was a nice step for me to actually start being more regular and start being more consistent with my streaming schedule. So that's a big point, I think. And yeah, as you can probably tell, like I said, I want to try to be able to articulate my ideas and my opinions and argumentations better, and that is one of the focuses of this sort of front-facing series of logs, if you will. They're pretty much just weekly logs. I'll expect to upload them once a week, but ultimately, even though they are meant to be more articulate, the list of topics is entirely varied and can change at any moment, even in the middle of recording. So it's really not that different than just asking me a question on my streams or something like that. Ultimately, it's just that I ask myself the question in the middle of talking to you guys, and you guys have to deal with that. So obviously, if there's any particular topics people want covered, they can feel free to post them in the comments. But this is obviously a very laid back and very different sort of recording environment and a different sort of content than what people are probably used to. Because when it comes down to it, I'm known for mostly targeting things that are specific to things in the by design videos, for example. Those are very specific to actually like concepts behind producing stuff and concepts behind the technical elements required. And the Big Boss table is pretty similar in that sense. They can sometimes veer off into philosophy, but it's usually grounded in the idea that you're going to become a better designer by at least entertaining some of the ideas that we have in those particular podcasts or the by design series or whatever. And the reviews are obviously more, I would say, targeting certain objective things. They're more concerned with those types of things. So there's all sorts of different things that come from that, but none of them really would make you believe that at some point you're just going to listen to me talk about life and more general philosophy things and how that has improved me as a developer. It still is tangentially related because, of course, I do consider myself a content developer first and foremost, even before a streamer. But I also recognize that this was probably very niche stuff. But to that end, most of my channel actually is pretty niche, so I'm fine with that. I also think that, like I said, this is mostly a service to myself. It will allow me to track how sort of cogent I've been able to be down, so many episodes of this. And it's another test of my ability to be reliable, another test of my ability to manage time. Can I set aside 10, 20 minutes a week to record a log like this in an environment where there's not too much background noise and not too many distractions? Well, I definitely think that that's feasible. I mean, I know that that is feasible. So will I do it? That is the test. Because there's pretty much everything that I want to do is feasible. It just requires me to do something. Have I done it? That is the question that I have to ask myself at the end of whatever the projected development time of something would be. Or just have I even sat down to start doing it, right? To go back to our earlier conversation about procrastination. So, yeah, I think that'll end our conversation today. But stay tuned for more streams, of course, and stay tuned for more of this next week, and I will see you guys then.